Hello, good morning.
Hey, Jen.
Hey guys,
Hi, Jen.
you on duty this morning, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna tell jokes for 15 minutes and call it a day.
We've already been called the Three Stooges, so
This call is called Ask Jerry Anything.
so good morning, everybody. Mike's away for a couple days, and certainly do rest for him. He's been fighting the good fight for all of us, so we're grateful for that, and Michael too. Mark Hughes here from the Harbor. We've got Diane and Jerry on the phone for you today as well. This beautiful post-Easter Monday, and with spring upon us, we'll spring into crystallizing a few of the things we've learned over the past few weeks, where we need to adjust our regular course of business processes, what new perspectives we've gained, which will best help us articulate these changes and realities to our clients. But before we do that, I figured we'd jump into, did anybody have an open house yesterday? How was your weekend? Any questions out there? Anything you want to share? And before I let you do that, don't forget, this is getting out of your box, and salespeople need to get out of their box a little bit. So you got to hit that unmute. You got to get comfortable with talking in groups. And the more you step out of that box, the better you're going to do when you're with your clients. So please jump in today and get us started. Well, that's a good start to a Monday. Is this an April Fool's joke?
Hello. Hi, everybody. My name's Vanessa.
Hey, Vanessa.
I initially had Hi. I had an open house scheduled yesterday, but the seller decided to hold the property. I guess I was working with another Seven Gables agent, and the property hadn't really sold. So I guess the seller was kind of getting discouraged and decided, you know, they already knew somebody and that they would probably just end up leasing it out. So almost had an open house on Easter, but not quite this time. So that's where I'm.
Well, hang in there. That happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But good opportunity to work on the dialogues around that when you run into it the next time, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Way to jump in. Anybody else have open house yesterday? Saturday?
Or Saturday.
Friday? All right. Well, we figured it would be a slow weekend. Everybody kind of doing their Easter thing, and that's fine. Questions about the kind of the real estate comp dynamics, right? Over the last couple of weeks, we've been inundated with the news of the NAR settlement and what that may mean to your business. I believe that it kind of creates clarity and transparency, and any light on the process, the agreement and the contract are good for all parties, right? So the short-term disruption to our flow, I believe, will create better long-term understanding of our values and our compensation. So I think it's all good. But do any of you have any questions about it? Diane and Jerry and I are here to answer it from our perspective as managers and what we've been seeing as well. So open the floor for anything about the real estate comp dynamics and what you think or may need to know.
I have a question.
Hey, Autumn. Sure.
Hi. Hey, so who's going to pay the buyer's compensation?
So who's going to pay the buyer's compensation? It sounds like, well, let me back into this. So we've had the media come out over the past couple weeks, right? And there's really been two settlement results as for the NAR agreement, right? And that's that buyer agreements are now standard and commissions aren't listed in the MLS anymore. And from those two things, the media generated salacious pieces that were more interested in being clickbait than they were in being accurate, right? And so the misconceptions that we're up against from these stories are really four things. One, that buyer agents were out of a job. Two, that buyers will have to pay agents out of pocket, which is kind of what your question was about. The third misconception was more consumers would go directly to the listing agent. And the fourth was that commissions will decrease drastically. So to answer your question, beyond the fact that buyers have always paid the commission, right? Listing agents and buyer's agents have never gotten paid until the seller has received buyer funds from that, then pay commissions. But beyond that conveniently overlooked fact, I think there is real incontrovertible data that shows the historic seller paid from proceeds model creates the most competition to drive price for the seller by allowing the most diversely financially able prospects to vie for the property. And so where this falls over time, obviously this is going to be a little bit of short-term disruption, but where it falls over time, it's like water. It's going to fall to the and gather in the lowest, easiest, frictionless spot. And I believe that to be the seller paying co-broke commissions. And when they don't, because they want to negotiate it into the deal, we'll use an SPBB. That's not right. We'll use the SPBB and ask the seller to pay it ourselves. And in the off chance that neither of those options, which I think will make up 99% of the deals out there, in the event that neither of those work, we will use credits, and we will use how much we're going to offer for the property, and also and other things to make that offer work for the buyer, as well as compensating us. Again, it's going to be a very small percentage, I believe, of what we're looking at, and we'll get more fluid, obviously, as we go, as it relates to that. But I think that's probably the best answer that I can give you. Diane or Jerry, do you want to add to that or subtract from that?
I would just really suggest, we're having workshops in the office, going through. We had Michael here last week in the Coast office, and we literally went through and wrote out, it was a workshop where we gave out the forms and said, you figure out which forms we're going to use. Here's the scenario. And really practice on each of these scenarios and how to write these things up using the different forms and the different scenarios, right? So you can come up with the solution that works for your buyer and your seller when you're the listing agent.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. If you haven't had a chance to look at Michael's class on Forms Friday, the last one he did, those are all, he went through all the different scenarios of how a buyer's agent's going to get paid. At the end of the day, I mean, I personally still think it's going to be the seller that has to pay, because buyers, a good majority of buyers don't have the funds to do it. So they're going to do what they've always done, just compensate for it in the price, ask the seller to pay it. It won't be advertised in the MLS. It'll be advertised as a concession for, the seller will pay a concession, whatever that's going to mean. They can use it for closing costs. They can use it for commission. They can use it for whatever. That'll be one way. But I think at the end of the day, the good majority of deals, except for, somebody with deep pockets that negotiates something for themselves as a buyer, they're going to be, the seller's going to pay for it. Now, seller could, I think there's going to be, the pendulum's going to probably swing, where there'll be a seller say, hey, I have a $2 million house. I'll pay 10 grand. That's it. That's all I want to pay. And then there'll be some negotiating and conversations with buyers and the seller maybe asking for more. But, I think like everything, it'll go one way and it'll eventually swing back to the middle. And, we'll kind of get back to I don't want to say business as usual, because it is changing for sure. But I think there is going to be the majority of people asking sellers to pay for it.
I met with three sellers recently. All three of them are like, yeah, fine. Of course we want to pay the buyer's agent. There's no question.
That's funny because my seller goes, maybe I should take the house off the market, wait till July, put it back on, and let the buyer pay its own and save some money. So and these are savvy buyers. Savvy sellers. They've sold multiple properties with me, and they're like, why should I pay for it if I don't have to?
So, Autumn, I think a couple things. One, I think that we need to be able to articulate that having more people see your home will only drive value higher. So the yield and profit is going to always be more when you have more people looking and driving competition. And then,
but let me respond to that really quick. If I don't present any commission to a buyer and it's on the MLS, they're still going to get the same exposure.
Say that one more time.
If
The
I list a home, if I list a
Oh,
property
no, they
and,
will, they
and
will
we don't
still
offer
get-
compensation, they're going to get
Yeah.
equal amount of exposure.
Yeah, it's not the exposure, it's the people that are able to pay their agent that won't look at that home because it's not a viable option for them to pay their agent and pay a down payment. So we're eliminating some of the buyer pool for your seller. And I just want to make sure that they're aware of that, because it may drive profit 3% and they just, save 2, right? And so that's the rub there. The other part of the coin there is, well, before I jump into that, Jerry, do you want to, or Diane, do you want to handle that question at all in terms of, hey, I don't want to pay it? We're also looking at this through the lens of a very crazy seller's market. And having done this 35 years, I know that your future markets are going to be equally even markets and buyer markets. And those are very different kind of conversations around commissions in those markets. Sellers are giving away cars in buyers markets. They're going to be dying to pay buyers agents in those markets as well. So I just want to remember the lens that we're looking at this through. And it doesn't help. It doesn't change it. Go ahead, Di.
We have Terry, he's got his hand up too.
I have yesterday as a rainy day exercise. I thought, we know that we're all talking about what's going to happen in the future and how we're going to be compensated. I was kind of worried about what's happening tomorrow. So rainy day exercise, I went ahead and kind of analyzed, looked at 135 listings, priced between 2 million and 10 million. What are the buyer's agents being paid today? So it was kind of interesting. It came up with, and I took the range from 2% up to 4%. And what it came up with was about 39 buyers are getting paid 2% on the buy side right now, 2.25 10 of them, and 2.5 commission to the buyer is 73. 11 at 3%, 1 at 3.5, and 1 at 4.0. So I'm going to take a look at this in 6 months. I'm going to put this in the file, look at it in 6 months, and ask myself, what are we being paid today then? So kind of interesting. You think some of this will be trending downward because, again, that range was from 2 million to 10 million. And that's the price point.
I thought you were going to say you're going to go out and show that one at 4%, Terry.
I did list one yesterday, Jerry. I'm waiting for you to call me on it.
Hey, let me go. Thank you, Terry. That's good information. I'm looking forward to hearing in 6 months what we're looking at. I think it'll be fairly close. Autumn, I wanted to ask you one last question because I thought your question was apropos for all of us. Were your clients amenable to negotiating the commission if it was offered in the contract? Did that come up at all?
No, it was just it was a off the cuff conversation, very informal. I'm
Anecdotal.
currently
Got
have
it.
one of their houses for sale, and then I'm working with the other family member to buy him a house, and so they see how much I work on both sides, and so they, they're trying to find value in a market that moves so quickly that buyers agents really don't necessarily, in their eyes, do that much work other than show them a house because they haven't conveyed the legal aspects of properly doing contracts and stuff. So that's all I was asking. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here.
Why hasn't
No,
their house,
it's very
I got a
helpful.
question. Why hasn't their house sold already?
That's something completely different.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. If they're savvy, they'd price it right, it'd be sold, right? So now to take away one more thing that can help it get their house sold doesn't seem like the best move.
I'm sure Autumn will take care of that. I think what we're also hearing on the seller side, one, the listing agents are going to have to take care of the buyer side by explaining this when they go in their presentations as well, right? The value of paying that co-broke is going to be kind of on the listing agents to take care of all of us to that regard. But what people aren't remembering is what we do on the buy side, because we've never had to articulate it. I know you guys have been hearing this over the last few weeks, but it's really critical. And Diane, I'm going to ask you to go over kind of some of the materials and things that we have coming out to help our agents with that. But we negotiate best price, terms, conditions, contingencies, and timing with our market knowledge and experience, right? We evaluate inspections and appraisals. We navigate California's myriad of forms and disclosures. True representation is never double-sided, and we need to articulate that to our buyers and sellers. We create confidence and certainty in the biggest life and financial decisions that most people ever have. So being able to kind of roll through that with folks and then break it down to exactly what we do, those kind of 67 things we do on the buy side, is critical to gaining their confidence in how we structure commissions and compensation. So,
Well, and especially, if you're a listing agent, you better know how to articulate the value of a buyer's agent just as much as a buyer's agent needs to articulate that value, right? And so Jen Hardy's on the phone right now. We talked this morning. There's going to be a 4-week value of an agent social media campaign being kicked off on both Instagram and Facebook starting today, I believe, Jen. So we want to encourage you guys to share that information out there. Help us get the word out to the consumers about the value of a buyer's agent and an agent in general, listing agent, so that we can, kind of share with our own sphere of influence the truth of what the media is not sharing, the clickbait that they're sharing out there. We're going to contradict that with the truth. And then on Inside, there is a buyer's presentation, a digital version of the buyer's presentation that Jen and her team have created. Make an appointment with marketing and personalize that and make it your own. The opposite of the listing presentation, right? Now we need the buyer's presentation. And we also have a lot of the buyer consultation booklets that we shared in our last regional meeting that kind of gives you a guided questions when you're sitting down doing your buyer's consultation to capture information so you can really personalize the experience of that buyer and provide more value to them. So take time now, guys. It's April 1st. Take time now to get better, right? We are built for this. We're Seven Gables agents. We're not the part-time, hobbyist out there. We're going to take this change and we're going to capitalize it and we're going to thrive in this new environment. And so don't worry about it. If you have time to talk about it, you have time to role play, right? You have time to get better. That's what I'm saying in here. And people here are role playing and they're getting better. And you guys, I encourage you to do the same. Reach out to each other, set some time to, hey, Monday mornings, let's come in the office early and role play our buyer's presentation. Let's role play the listing presentation on how to talk about the value of a buyer's agent. It's time to just level up a little bit, and we're already here. It's time to go here. We're going to do great in this market, you guys. Don't worry so much and about the negative. This is going to be a positive change, as Mark shared earlier.
I agree, Di. It's going to be positive for us. It's probably not going to be positive for your competition, which is going to give us less of a pool of competition to go up against. I think this is an opportunity for more and more deals to get more deals. So this is a positive thing for all of us. Diane, so where is that in the Inside? Do you know where is it in the marketing dashboard, or where's that going to be?
Jen? Just under the marketing tab, Mark. Just Inside
Got
Seven
it.
Gables marketing tab where all the other guides are.
Thank you. Perfect. So I encourage everybody to go get that. Any other questions? Ani's got her hand up. Or had it up.
Hi, this is Ani. I have a
Ani.
few questions. I was overseas for 2 weeks, so I missed a lot. But are we allowed to double end? Because in the past, Mike said that might not be allowed anymore. Are we allowed to double end?
And again, we're certainly allowed to double end. I would encourage you just to get with the manager so we can bring you up to speed and not to take everybody's time here. But none of this has gone into effect. It hasn't been ratified yet. But once again, Mike's got us well ahead of the game and getting prepared to handle changes. So that's where we are. It would be July that these would take effect. But certainly dual agency is still available and not a problem.
Okay, I have another question.
Sure.
If I take a listing this week, let's say, we're still offering the selling agent commission, correct?
Sure, and there's nothing that's going to preclude us from offering that in the future. As a matter of fact, I would highly recommend it. It's just that we won't be putting it in the MLS. People
Yeah.
will be calling you as the listing. Okay, you get it.
Okay.
Got it.
So,
More
so,
disclosure than a change, right?
Yeah,
so,
I get that
I'm good.
question all the time. Nothing's changed right now. Nothing's
Okay.
gonna change in the MLS or how we do things now until
Yeah.
July.
okay,
Good
so down
question.
the line, when it changes, is it possible, let me give you a scenario. I take a 4% listing. So I negotiate 4%. And in the agent remarks, I write that if somebody has a buyer to call me, and then I offer them 2%, and I split it. I split it 50-50. It's not the seller. It's the Seven Gables commission, and then I'm paying
Yes.
another agent. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's actually the broker that's offering that co-broke commission to the other agent.
Yeah.
And that will be fine. You are going to have to probably disclose it in your listing agreement with
Yeah.
the seller. But okay, well, yeah, I know you're going to have to disclose that. Seller's in charge of how that's paid now.
Yeah, just to be clear, Ani, not to put anything in the MLS. We're gonna have more guidance on that as we get closer, as things are wrapping, as Mark mentioned. But we're gonna take this conversation offline, Ani. There's a lot to catch you up on in the last 2 weeks
Okay.
while you were traveling.
Okay. Yeah,
But-
thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
I
good
have a quick
question.
question. It's Mercedes. Good morning, everyone.
Mercedes.
Hi, happy belated Easter to everybody. I have a quick question, and it's kind of along the lines of what Ani just brought up. In a situation like this, where we are the ones that are offering, we negotiate a 4% for ourselves, and then we're willing to split it with the other side. How does that? Well, I don't know. Maybe this is a tax question or something that I should talk to accounting about. But if we're the ones that are getting paid the full 4%, then we're getting taxed on that. So how do we
You won't be
Yeah.
taxed on it. You won't be taxed
Yeah,
on
you
it.
Yeah, it'll work the same way. It's just that the seller's got to be the one that so it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be that, hey, I got 4% to play with now to attract buyers. You and the seller are going to have to decide that at 4%, you're taking 2 and you're offering 2.
Got it.
And
Okay. And by the way, I just had a really cool phone call that kind of interrupted in on the Zoom call, but it's a buyer. It's a situation that I'm representing both sides, and it's a buyer, and he just called me because we're supposed to close on Thursday, and he said, Mercedes, do I owe you commission? And I said, well, in this particular situation, it was already negotiated at the, when I signed the listing and everything, and they're prepared to, do all of that. And I said, but understand, I said that in a sense, and it was along what you had said at the very beginning, Mark, in a sense, I'm getting paid because you're buying a house. So, and that's where the money's coming from, so it's always kind of been that way. But it was kind of cool because the guy said, well, because if we owe you money, we'll pay it. You've really done a lot. And it was nice to see that. I think a lot of consumers don't realize, but I think the ones that have bought more than one house, at least, they get it. They get how complicated this process is and how important it is to have somebody on your side and advocate for you. So anyway, I just want to put it out there that I think there's probably a little bit more savviness out in the market from consumers than we're giving them credit for. I'm hoping anyway. But anyway, okay, that's it.
Thank you, Mercedes. You're always great to jump in. I believe us making the buyers savvy over time will come back as a real plus for all of us because they'll understand what's going on. And we know from our panel this summer, they just don't. And again, that's on us. And it won't be that way anymore with the help of Jen's group and some of the materials we have coming out. And I agree. And one of the things that holds agents back from learning their dialogue and doing the hard work that Diane was talking about a minute ago is the pressure, right? And so we don't want you to learn these scripts verbatim, but we want you to make them yours and just understand the overall spirit of these scripts, and you'll do fine. And so we'll make sure that you're smooth on that. Anybody else?
Mark, to further
Rich, go ahead.
To further clarify, when we are referring to the MLS, I get it. We're no longer have the option to put, okay, 2 1/4, 2 3/4, the split. Are we allowed to put that in the private agent remarks, or we can't speak to it at all and it has to be verbal?
Nowhere at all.
Or community? Okay, okay, thank you.
That doesn't mean there won't be parallel sites that are commission sites. I mean, again, the spirit of the ruling is such that they just don't want it out there. So the best way that we're going to be able to do this is call the agent. You want to do that anyway, kind of create a relationship. And oh, by the way, broker paying, is the seller amenable to it? Is this on me? Just find out as you go, right? You'll learn more about the property and everything else as we go. One last question. Anybody else out there? Questions,
I'll just share
concerns?
that Jen, already the team has posted something out. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook. I love this one. I just saw it pop up on my feed because
Wow.
Zillow won't tell you about the bad wiring. It's a great one, Jen. That's great. So make sure you guys are sharing this out there.
Yeah, some great social media outreach coming from our wonderful marketing department that will help you tell the story and not just have us all fall under this media noise. Anybody else? I hope everybody has a great Monday. Diane, Jerry, and I are around and ready to help if you need us. Have a great Monday.
See you guys.